Auto Mundial is sponsored by Trade Centre.
Welcome to Auto Mundial, the weekly car news and review show.
This time we're looking at the all-new Mercedes E-Class. How does it compare to rivals from Audi and BMW?
Plus the latest American models from Kia and Ford and a new luxury EV from Genesis.
Finally, we'll be checking out a fabulous French hot hatch from Alpine. That's all coming up. First though, the news.
JLR has announced a surge in revenue for the final quarter of the 2022 financial year. 2022's overall revenue was up by 25% year-on-year to £22.8 billion, following a 9% increase in sales. In total, Jaguar Land Rover shifted 321,000 cars, nearly a third of which was sold in the fourth quarter alone, helped by a full-scale production of the Range Rover and Range Rover Sport. The real success, though, is the Slovakian-built Defender, which continues to sell well despite its long waiting list. Jaguars, meanwhile, remain slow sellers, but with plans to relaunch the brand as a premium EV manufacturer, we could still see Jaguar back at the top of its game.
Every so often, one of the world's landmark cars gets an update. In the last couple of years, we've seen a new Range Rover, a new Ford Mustang, and a new V12 Lamborghini. The new Mini is due to be released soon, and the Fiat 500 is now electric. Now though, it's the turn of possibly the most renowned saloon car of them all, the Mercedes E-Class. With more than 14 million E-Classes built, the new one is clearly a very important car for Mercedes, so let's see what it's like. Starting with the way it looks, the new E-Class is a clear evolution of the old car. It gets some S-Class inspired details like the flush door handles and intricate rear lights, as well as the new front grille, which has the option to be backlit. As is often the case with new cars, the E-Class has grown. It's both longer and wider than before, but that's resulted in improved cabin space. The boot stays the same at 540 litres, but that's put down to 370 on plug-in hybrid models. That brings us neatly onto the new selection of powertrains. All models are either mild or plug-in hybrids, and all make use of a 9-speed automatic transmission. There are both petrol and diesel mild hybrids on offer, each offering somewhere in the region of 200 horsepower, with the diesel model boasting an MPG figure of 58.9. Next up is the plug-ins. From launch there are 2 petrol PHEVs to choose from, but a diesel will be arriving at some point. The entry-level PHEV is the E300e, which pairs a 2-litre 4-cylinder with a 25.4 kWh battery for a combined 312 brake horsepower. Performance then is likely to be nice and lively, but its party piece is its 73-mile electric range. There's also a more powerful E400e, which gives you an extra 69 horsepower. Step inside the leather-lined cabin and you're greeted with more S-Class derived bits. As with the bigger model, the option is there to have the dashboard filled with screens. In the E-Class, Mercedes calls it the Super Screen. It consists of one huge central infotainment system with a screen either side for each of the front occupants. Of course, the E-Class is packed full of technology, including autonomous safety gear and automatic parking. However, the latest Merc doesn't have the market to itself. For decades, the E-Class has been in a fierce battle with the BMW 5 Series and the Audi A6.
Beginning with BMW, and like the Merc, the 5 Series features several engine options. There's a pair of petrol plug-in hybrids and a handful of petrol and diesels, as well as the full-fat M5. Inside, the 5 Series shares much of its styling with the brand's flagship 7 Series limo, including the latest iDrive system, gesture control and semi-autonomous driving features. The interior isn't as exciting as the new Mercs, but it oozes quality and it remains spacious, especially as an estate. So how about the Audi A6? Well, it may have fewer engines to choose from, but they all feature a mild hybrid system. Inside, Audi has certainly splashed out on the standard equipment. Even the entry-level sport model is equipped with leather seats, dual-zone climate control, ambient LED interior lighting and keyless go. And despite being on sale for a good few years now, it still looks and feels modern and well made.
To us though, it seems like they've both been blown out of the water by the new E-Class. It may not have the broadest engine selection, and we're still waiting on an estate. But with that cabin and its hybrid technology, it feels much more modern.
Over in North America, cars tend to get updated every year. While we don't get those annual updates too frequently in Europe, over in the States, most models are updated every year in a bid to stay competitive and keep the order books full. These minor facelifts usually just consist of a few extra features and maybe some colour options. But Kia has done slightly more than that with this, the 2023 Telluride. Since its introduction in 2020, the Telluride has always been a good-looking car, punching well above its weight in both desirability and ability. And now, for the new model year, Kia has decided to give the car an aesthetic makeover. With a few bits of nip and tuck, the 2023 Telluride looks better than ever, with a new grille, restyled headlights and a new front bumper with trim to match the contemporary matte finish on the trim. The biggest changes, though, are on the inside. There's no doubt the Telluride is a nice car, but with a starting price of $37,000, it's hard not to be seriously impressed with the cabin. Leather and high-quality wood finishes in a car this big are usually reserved for Cadillacs or BMW, but they are here in abundance. The party piece is the new screen panel atop the dash. The enormous panel consists of two 12.3-inch screens, one digital instrument panel and an infotainment system, another feature usually reserved for more traditionally premium manufacturers. Navigation is now standard across the range, as is a Wi-Fi hotspot. Two new trim levels also join the lineup, but it is the range-topping SX that still impresses the most, delivering a true luxury car experience for a pretty reasonable $52,000. All versions use the same 291 horsepower naturally aspirated V6 with an 8-speed autobox. Performance isn't electric, but it is on par with its rivals. Power is sent to the front wheels only, but for an extra $2,000 or so, all trims are available 4-wheel drive. Self-leveling rear suspension is available, handy if you're towing, and its 8.4 inches of ground clearance is useful off-road.
As a relative newcomer to the class though, it needs to beat a full-size SUV stalwart, the Volkswagen Atlas. Like the Telluride, the Atlas has just received its 2023 updates, although in this case they're rather more subtle. The base model S trim has been dropped, and there are a few new bits of equipment like a digital instrument panel for mid-range cars and up. The Atlas is absolutely massive by European standards. It's a full 9 inches longer than a Touareg, but it costs even less than the Kia, with a starting price of under $36,000. The Atlas is getting on a bit now, but last year's upgrades really lifted the cabin. Still, it doesn't feel as premium or as up-to-date as the Telluride, although it is fantastically practical with loads of passenger and cargo space throughout.
Like many of the Kias we see here in Europe, the Telluride represents great value. With its likeable styling and posh cabin, the 2023 Telluride is at the top of its class.
After the break, Ford's biggest pickup, and Alpine reveals its new electric Abarth rival.
Auto Mundial is sponsored by Trade Centre. Auto Mundial is sponsored by Trade Centre.
Coming up, Alpine goes electric, but first...
In the land of bigger is better, it seems massive pickup trucks are still as popular as ever. While Europe heads towards an electric future, America is apparently not quite ready to give up V8s and fossil fuels just yet. The latest gas-guzzling Leviathan is this, the all-new 2023 Ford F350 Super Duty. Ford is yet to reveal all the stats and figures for its new full-size pickup, but it has said that it will deliver the highest output and biggest payload of any truck in its class. There are 4 engine options to choose from, all V8s, with 2 petrol and 2 diesels ranging from 6.7 and 7.3 litres in capacity, so it's safe to assume we can expect plenty of grunt when it goes on sale. This being a new truck from the ground up, there is of course plenty of tech. There are numerous trim levels to choose from, but the infotainment screen can be as big as 12 inches, while a new advanced blind spot warning system and digital instrument cluster should keep it competitive for a good few years to come. The styling is evolutionary rather than revolutionary. But with its big chrome grille and wide, flat panels, there's no mistaking it for anything but a big Ford truck. The interior is also far from futuristic, but it's designed to be intuitive and comfortable on long journeys. Entry-level XL models will still be relatively Spartan with rear-wheel drive, but higher-spec F350s will come with all the luxuries one would expect in any new car, with options ranging from onboard telematics to Bang & Olufsen sound systems.
We rather liked what we've seen from Genesis so far. Hyundai's premium offshoot has generally impressed with its range of posh saloon cars and SUVs. But we've known for a while that they were all just the build-up for something that has the potential to take the company, which is still little known here in the UK, to a mainstream audience. And here it is, it's called the GV60, and it's the Korean brand's first full EV. It's built on the same platform as the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6, with either rear or all-wheel drive. From the front, it's clear to see its Genesis lineage, with signature split headlights and the rather uninspired winged emblem atop the bonnet. The design isn't offensive, but it isn't as eye-catching as the Kia EV6, nor as striking as the super stylish Ioniq 5. The GV60 is a premium car though, designed to take on the likes of Jaguar and Mercedes, so the more conservative look is perhaps better suited to it. And the interior certainly doesn't disappoint. It won't be for everyone with its silver trim and crystal ball drive selector, but it all feels very expensive and beautifully put together. It's light and airy with the flat floor adding to the spacious feel. The digital instrument cluster and infotainment system sit proudly on top of the dash, while the clunky steering wheel is festooned with buttons and switches. Climate functions are also operated via physical switches. A big plus point meaning you don't have to cycle through menus on a screen. Prices start at a little under £54,000, and for that you get the confusingly named premium model. It gets a single electric motor producing 225 bhp with a WLTP range of 321 miles. Next up is the Sport. This gets all-wheel drive with a 215 brake horsepower motor on the rear axle. The 99 horsepower one on the front for a combined 314. It uses the same 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, but the range takes a hit to 292 miles. The top spec GV60 is the $65.5 grand Sport Plus, by far the most powerful option. The Sport Plus produces 429 bhp, driving all four wheels. In boost mode, this is up to 483 bhp for 10 seconds, allowing the GV60 to hit 62 miles per hour from rest in 4 seconds flat. Range is reduced further to 289 miles, but who really cares when you have a drift mode?
The question is though, why wouldn't you save some money and buy its sister car from Kia instead? Okay, it isn't the prettiest EV out there, but it's certainly striking with lots of interesting angles and creases that really do turn heads as you quietly glide through town. There are numerous power outputs on offer, providing serious performance for a big, sensible family car. All models can be charged from 10 to 80% in 18 minutes with a 350 kilowatt fast charger, which should take some of the stress out of longer journeys. On the road, the EV6 can really get a move on. The instant torque means even the basic car is good fun to drive, especially when you stick it in sport mode. This sharpens response and firms up the steering, which is good fun if a little hectic on narrow and bumpy British roads. Inside, the EV6 is a world away from Kias of old. If you haven't been in a Kia built in the last 5 years or so, you're in for a bit of a shock. The cabin looks fantastic and feels built to last. The touch-sensitive buttons can be a bit fiddly, especially when you're driving, but it's otherwise a fantastic place to be.
The GV60 then has some real competition, but we knew that already. What matters is if it can find customers for such a new brand. Its success remains to be seen, but for now we like the GV60, even if we do prefer the Kia.
We all know and love Renault subsidiary Alpine for its beautiful and engaging sports cars. We maintain that the A110 is one of the finest driver's cars on sale today, with its combination of low weight and modest power. Now though, Alpine is set to do something a bit different. Following the death of Renault Sport and its magnificent hot hatchbacks, Alpine is set to take on the mantle with this, the A290 Beta. A concept for now, the A290 is based on the new Renault 5 concept and marks quite the departure from mid-engined petrol sports cars. The A290 is an all-electric hot hatch that ties modern-day tech with 80s nostalgia. There are some brilliant Group B rally-inspired touches like the spotlights at the front and the blocky Alpine branded wheels. The Michelin tyres are surrounded by some chunky arches, wider than the Renault versions, while the front splitter, rear diffuser and arch extensions are all made from something called blue forged carbon. The fabulous motorsport-inspired styling is topped off with an appropriate tricolour livery and plenty of wings and canards. Inside, the A290's interior is every bit as enticing as the outside. There's a 3-seat layout a la McLaren F1, with the driver sat in the middle for the full race car experience. There's a roll cage, shift lights and raw carbon bucket seats. Despite all its motorsport bits, it remains utterly futuristic. The best bit though is that it's actually heading for production. It'll be a while yet, the standard Renault version is still yet to be revealed, but Alpine has confirmed the A290 will be joining the 110 in showrooms as soon as 2024. Sadly, it won't be getting a central driving position or 20-inch alloy wheels. In fact, we don't expect the road version to look much like this at all. Still, we can't wait to see it in the metal at some point next year.
Join us again next week on Auto Mundial as we take a look at the latest EV from Cupra, the all-new Tavascan. Auto Mundial is sponsored by Trade Centre.